Small Seed Book Zine. 26,000 Rebirths. Written by Luna. The afternoon sunlight poured through the front windows of the Santa Cruz coffee roasters, painting golden rectangles across the old wooden floorboards. Outside, bicycles rolled past slowly on Pacific Avenue. A guy with dreadlocks played acoustic guitar beneath the hanging flower baskets while gulls drifted overhead toward the ocean. Inside the cafe, espresso machines hissed like little steam engines, while the smell of dark roast coffee wrapped itself around everyone like a warm blanket. Our crew had gathered again. Glinda sat cross-legged in the corner booth with her cinnamon tea. Sid tapped quietly on his laptop, though he looked more interested in listening than coding. Tara Singh had just arrived from a motorcycle ride up Highway 1, still carrying the smell of eucalyptus and salt air on his jacket. Guru P folded a napkin into geometric shapes absent-mindedly. Portolo Man stirred honey into his coffee slowly like a Zen ritual. An eclectic Scout looked lit up with excitement. "Oh man," Scout said, leaning forward. "I've been thinking a lot about Bhagavan Das again." At the mention of Baba's name, everyone softened a little. "You mean from your time up at the Buddhist temple garden near Ashland?" Glinda asked. "Yes, exactly," Scout nodded. "At Tashi Choling. Beautiful, peaceful place. Prayer flags moving in the breeze. No traffic sounds. No phones buzzing. Just birds, wind in the trees, and Baba turning that giant prayer wheel." Tara smiled immediately. "That sounds like him. Grounded but cosmic at the same time." Scout laughed. "Totally. And while turning this massive prayer wheel filled with millions of prayers, he starts dropping some of the deepest wisdom I've ever heard." Sid closed his laptop, now completely invested. "What was he talking about?" he asked. Scout paused. "He said we die and are reborn 26,000 times a day." The table went silent except for the clinking of cups nearby. Luna's pen stopped moving for a moment. Portillo Man raised an eyebrow. "That's a heavy opening statement." Scout nodded. "Yeah, but he explained it through the breath. Every exhale is a little death. Every inhale is rebirth." Guru P smiled gently. "That's actually very Buddhist." Sid nodded immediately. "Anicca," he said softly. "Impermanence. The self is never fixed. The Buddha taught that we are more like a flame than a statue, constantly changing moment by moment." "That's exactly what Baba was pointing toward," Scout replied excitedly. "He was saying, we carry around this giant emotional backpack, regrets, fears, old identities, but biologically we're already new again with every breath." Glinda placed her hand over her heart. "That's beautiful actually," she whispered. "It means we don't have to keep dragging yesterday around." Outside the cafe, the street musician shifted into a mellow version of Ripple by the Grateful Dead. Portillo Man laughed softly. "Of course that song starts playing right now." Everyone smiled. Scout continued. "Baba talked about what he called stinking thinking." Guru P burst out laughing. "That sounds exactly like Bhagavan Das. He said most people are trapped replaying the past or worrying about the future. Like having 100 browser tabs open in your mind." Sid pointed toward Scout. "Now that metaphor I understand." Everyone laughed. "But the point," Scout continued, "was that none of those mental tabs are reality. Reality is just this breath right now." Tara leaned back slowly, gazing out the window. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "that's what riding a motorcycle can feel like sometimes. You can't really worry about tomorrow while leaning into a mountain curve. Your whole awareness comes into the present." "Exactly," Scout replied. "Baba said the present moment is the only place we actually exist." Luna looked down at her notebook. The cafe sounds seemed strangely musical now. The hiss of steaming milk, coffee grinders whirring, quiet conversations, silverware clinking, gulls crying outside. All of it happening now. Only now. Glinda looked toward Scout again. "Didn't Bhagavan Das also know Ram Das personally?" Scout grinned. "Oh, yeah." And he shared this amazing story. Back when Ram Das was still Richard Alpert from Harvard. Sid smiled knowingly. "The before times." "Exactly," Scout laughed. "Baba said Ram Das was spiraling mentally one day in India, overthinking everything, trying to impress people, talking nonstop about plans and psychedelic experiences. Portillo man chuckled. Classic intellectual overload. And Bhagavan Das, only around 20 years old at the time, just stopped him and said, "Look at your feet. Be here now." The table became quiet again. Even the music outside seemed to soften at that exact moment. "Wow," Glinda whispered. "Such a simple instruction." Sid nodded slowly. "That's actually profound nervous system regulation," he explained. "You can't think your way out of overthinking. But bringing awareness into the body interrupts the loop." Scout pointed towards Sid excitedly. "That's what Baba was saying too. The body brings you back into reality." Guru P folded his napkin carefully into a small triangle. "You know what I love most about Bhagavan Das?" he asked quietly. Everyone looked over. "He doesn't make spirituality feel elite. He makes it human." Scout smiled immediately. "Yes, exactly. He talks about kindness," Guru P continued. "Breathing. Feeding people. Smiling at strangers. Simple things. That came from his grandmother too," Scout added. He said his deeply Christian grandmother taught him early on. If you don't have something good to say about somebody, don't say anything at all. Tara nodded deeply. The hat teaching alone could heal half the internet. Laughter rolled around the table. "But seriously," Portillo man added, "that's the medicine people need right now. Everybody's trapped inside their phones and opinions. Nobody knows how to just sit together anymore." Luna glanced around the cafe. Students typing papers. Artists sketching in notebooks. Surfers laughing loudly near the door. An older couple sharing pie quietly. For one strange, beautiful moment, the whole cafe felt connected. Scout took another sip of coffee before continuing. "One thing Baba said really hit me hard," he admitted quietly. "He said all our achievements and possessions are basically sandcastles." Sid nodded slowly. "Impermanence again." "Yeah," Scout said. "Eventually the tide washes it all away. The only thing that remains is the good we put into others." Silence settled over the table again. Not awkward silence. Sacred silence. Outside, sunlight shimmered across parked bicycles and moving leaves. Finally, Glinda smiled softly. "So, what did Bhagavan Das say we should actually do?" Scout's face brightened instantly. He said, "Sit still for 5 minutes every day." Tara laughed. "That's it?" "That's it." Scout laughed too. "Sit up straight. Breathe light into your heart on the inhale. Breathe light out into the world on the exhale." Guru P closed his eyes briefly as if trying it immediately. Sid smiled gently. "That's elegant." "Totally," Scout agreed. "No fancy equipment. No expensive retreat. Just breath and awareness." Portillo man looked around the table warmly. "You know," he said quietly, "for a bunch of people sitting at a coffee shop, we somehow keep ending up at the center of the universe." Everyone burst out laughing. Even Luna. And as I sat there writing it all down, I realized maybe that was Bhagavan Das's whole message. The sacred was never somewhere else. It was here. Inside the breath. Inside friendship. Inside music. Inside kindness. Inside this little coffeehouse beside the sea. 26,000 rebirths a day. And maybe every conversation is one too. The afternoon light had begun shifting toward evening gold by the time the conversation slowed. The cafe windows glowed amber now, and long shadows stretched across the wooden floor. Outside, the ocean breeze carried the smell of salt water and redwood bark up from the direction of the wharf. The rush had calmed. Only a few customers remained scattered around the coffee house. A student reading poetry near the front window, an old surfer sipping tea, 2 musicians quietly discussing chords over blueberry muffins. Behind the counter, Sophia wiped down the espresso machine while half listening to our table the way she always did. Finally, she walked over holding a ceramic mug between both hands. "I swear," she laughed softly, "every time I overhear you guys talking, I end up rethinking my entire life." Everyone laughed. "You've been eavesdropping again?" Glinda teased. Sophia smiled unapologetically. Occupational hazard. She pulled up a chair beside Luna. But really, Sophia continued, what you were, all saying about breathing and letting go of the old version of yourself, that hits home for me. Tara nodded knowingly. Life keeps asking us to become new people, he said quietly. Sophia looked out the cafe window toward the glowing evening sky. I think working here has taught me that too, she admitted. Every day people come through these doors carrying invisible things, grief, excitement, loneliness, hope. Then conversations happen, music plays, somebody smiles at somebody else, and somehow everyone leaves a little lighter. Portillo man smiled warmly. That's real medicine right there. Sophia laughed softly. Maybe coffeehouses are modern temples. Guru P raised his mug. To the temple of caffeine and consciousness. Everyone laughed again. Outside, the street musician had started singing softly while the evening crowd drifted slowly down Pacific Avenue. The cafe lights glowed warm against the coming dusk. Sid closed his laptop gently. You know, he said thoughtfully, Bhagavan Das would probably approve of this. Scout smiled immediately. Totally. No giant lecture halls, Sid continued. No hierarchy. Just people sitting together trying to remember how to be human. That's the real practice, Guru P added. For a moment, no one spoke. The kind of silence that only happens among people completely comfortable with one another. Luna looked around the table quietly. Glinda smiling softly into her tea. Portillo man leaning back peacefully. Sophia resting her chin on her hand listening. Tara glowing with road-worn calm. Sid thoughtful as always. Scout alive with wonder. A tiny accidental family. Finally, Scout stood up first. Well, he sighed happily. Looks like another beautiful coffeehouse transmission. Chairs scooted back. Jackets were gathered. Coffee cups stacked. And then, naturally, the hugs began. Not rushed. Not performative. Real hugs. The kind that say, I see you. I'm glad you're here. Travel safely through this strange life. Sophia hugged Luna tightly first. I'm serious, Sophia whispered. You better keep writing all this down someday. Luna smiled. Already working on it. Portillo man hugged Scout and laughed. 26,000 rebirths a day, huh? No pressure. Scout grinned. Fresh start every breath. Tara clasped Sid's shoulder warmly before pulling him into a hug too. Stay balanced, brother. You too, Sid replied quietly. Finally, Tara stepped toward the cafe door, motorcycle keys jingling softly in his hand. The evening light framed him in gold for a moment. He turned back toward all of us with that peaceful, grounded smile of his. Blessings to everyone, he said gently. May your breaths be light and your roads be beautiful. Then he stepped outside into the cool Santa Cruz evening. A moment later, we heard the low rumble of his motorcycle drift down Pacific Avenue, like distant thunder fading toward the sea. Inside the cafe, nobody spoke for a few seconds. We simply stood there smiling. Another conversation completed. Another small seed planted.
Please click like and then subscribe. Also share this video with your friends. Thank you.